Beginning of my video. Boom!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer! Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all this. It was over in a snap.
We really want it. Alright, we'll be nice.
Only you can be a Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
It's crazy.
You don't need to follow the show to be hyped.
Alright, welcome back to Boring Reviews. Nick here.
Jody.
And here in Boring Land today, we are going to be reviewing what film?
The Lunchbox.
The Lunchbox. The Lunchbox is directed by Ritesh Batra, and it stars Irrfan Khan, Nimrat Kaur, and of course, she likes to do that once we start recording. Of course,
I feel too tall.
my man, Nawaz Siddiqui. Nawazuddin Siddiqui, short name Nawaz. Now, she's not too familiar with Nawaz, because that's okay, because Gangs of Wasseypur, Sacred Games, that's not really her types of thing.
Nope.
But he played a very different character in this movie, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's just start with our overall thoughts. What were the things that you liked about this film?
I adored it. I thought it was so sweet. And like, okay, I know when we watched the trailer, we were kind of curious. Like, you had thought maybe an affair. I thought maybe like a sweet friendship.
I was so nervous.
But I really liked the way their relationship developed. I truly appreciate it. I thought that their notes back and forth were kind of funny because sometimes they just ended. And there was, like, I don't know, you kind of like a sincerely, a thank you, but I liked it. I liked how they each helped each other, and you got to see each of their own struggles in the real world, and you can totally relate to what they were going through. And I thought that Nawaz guy, that like his character was hilarious. I mean, at first he was kind of annoyingly chipper, but you really do come to find him very endearing. But I'm totally curious, like, he totally made up his degree, right? Like, he was faking. Like, is he kind of one of those guys that are just, he's trying to get through life, but maybe going about it some ways not so much? Like when he admits to getting on the train without paying for a ticket, like, did he do that on purpose? Is that normally how he travels? Or was it just because he was with his coworker and just didn't want to admit he didn't have a train ticket and couldn't afford it?
Yeah, see, this is, and I want to start with positive, but since you mentioned that, I just got to say, one of my biggest issues with this film is how there was so much open-ended type stuff. There were so many things.
Yes, left you wondering.
Unexplained, yes, left you wondering. That's a good way to put it. And that's good. That's fine for films. It really, really is. There's nothing wrong with that. And I find that most, I don't want to say mainstream audiences, because I don't think they would agree, but most film-loving audiences like more open-ended. They don't like to be told everything. They don't like exposition. I am one of those rare film lovers that I like a certain amount of exposition. Yeah. I like going into a film and being presented with the basics and then going from there. I don't need to have everything said to me or spelled out to me. And so in this film, there's a lot of that open-endedness.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I like what you mentioned about the notes, because I feel like the notes was the best part of the film.
Yeah.
You take away the notes, it's not nearly as good. And not just how odd some of the notes were, because that's kind of how correspondence would be with someone that you're first talking to, someone that you have no business talking to, met by accident through this Lunchbox program. And, you know, she's got her husband who cares not at all about her anymore. And he's got his situation where his wife had passed away. He's a very crotchety man at this point. He's very to himself. Maybe crotch is not the best word. He's not really mean, but he doesn't really care about people's feelings.
I think he's lonely, but he's so used to being by himself that, like, he just wants to be left alone. Don't bother me. Leave me alone. This is my life.
Even to his own detriment, though, because you can see, like, when he's looking across the way at the little girl's house, her little kitchen window, you can see that he wants to have that connection, but it's just like he's not able to bring himself to start those connections. And it could have been so simple, like when the ball was in the balcony, he said, "Too bad, so sad," basically. Could have been so simple just to get that ball here, go out, get out of my face.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't willing to do that. I get that. His wife had passed away. We don't know exactly how recently, so I didn't notice that in the movie. But anyways, as far as the things that I liked, the notes was fantastic. I love the writing in some of those notes. That was like beautiful poetry, some of the things that they were saying. They were opening up. when I think it's him that first opens up to her, right? And I remember when we were watching, you were like, wow, he just kind of just said that, right? That was random. I thought it was funny at first how he just complains. His only response to her when she's like, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah.
Food was salty.
It was salty. And that was it. And then the lady, we got to talk about the lady downstairs.
Oh my gosh, no, upstairs.
Auntie.
Upstairs.
Auntie. Was she upstairs?
I'm pretty sure she was
I
in the
guess that
flat
would make
upstairs
sense
because she was
the things
bringing the
coming
basket down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
She was hilarious. What? She's like, I love how she keeps sending down different things, or she's like, nope, just write that note, that's it. And the lady's like, but should I add more? Nope, just send it.
I love how they just like yell at each other too.
Yes.
Like, I mean, there's a joke that I love in the original Rocky film where he's with Adrian and she's getting nervous being alone with the man, and she's like, I gotta go call my brother. He's got to know that I'm safe. He's like, I'll call your brother. Opens the window. Hey, Paula, your sister's with me. I'll call you later. And that's kind of like the old school phone call between these two ladies. They're just, hey, auntie. And either she's there or she's not. I can't imagine what the other neighbors are thinking. Like, will you be quiet, please? Or I want to be part of the conversation or something. But it was funny. You get those peppers that come down to kind of get revenge. And she keeps like moving up. Come on, here you go.
Yeah, come take it.
I thought that was great. But that relationship was fun. You get that side character without ever meeting that person.
Yes, so true. Because I wanted to meet her, and I think that what was interesting too is that near the end, Hila's mom and her description of being disgusted taking care of her father, but the auntie who takes care of the uncle in a very similar situation, and how she's like so excited. She's like, I cleaned the fan without turning it off, and I seriously was sitting there like, how did you do that? Yeah, like I'm trying to like picture like the stick with maybe like a rag as it's like hitting the top of the fan.
Just keeping the stick there that has like an L shape.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Trying to wipe the fan blades as they going. But the love that she has for her husband, and maybe possibly some irritation, but she doesn't show it at least. But I understood the mom's frustration and irritation.
Well, and that was so weird, and that was more near the end. And this review is going to be kind of just us talking about our favorite parts.
Place.
Yeah, I mean, what else is new with Born reviews? But that was interesting because when the mom, and I get it, you know, her husband just died. She's not in the best place. She's very vulnerable right now, and she has no filter. But she's talking about how kind of annoyed she was of having to take care of everything, and she almost like she felt like a servant. She didn't say that, but that's kind of how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
When she's talking about this, I turned to my wife. I was like, did she kill him? Like, she was just so sick of it. And I'm glad they didn't go to that dark place that he had died of his illness, cancer, whatever it was. But the thing that this movie has a lot of is it's very grounded in reality. It's not fluffy. It deals with some real life situations, people, and being almost depressed, feeling alone. Even in her case, she's in a marriage. In his case, he has his job and he's retiring. It should be the happiest part of his life. He's able to move on after 35 years. But they're just very melancholy and they're very unsatisfied. And again, I said earlier about the open-endedness, the unresolved situation, as he's having this correspondence with this girl. And if you haven't seen the movie, she makes lunch for her husband every day and sends it through the Lunchbox Program. But and this is a program that Harvard's done studies on, and the guy mentions that in the movie. Yeah. That it's a very, very logistical, very on-point program where they send millions, not hundreds of thousands of lunches every day, and it gets the right place.
just watching the hand go up there.
No, one day. But,
pretty much.
But hopefully not. But you have her. She's in this program to give her husband the food. It gets a mix-up. It goes to Irrfan's character, Mr. Fernandez. And they start this correspondence. And so as they're doing that, he starts to open up more. And it's left for assumption, left for inference on how his character goes through that change. Maybe he was more personable when his wife was alive, but even he himself says that when my wife was alive, she'd be in the kitchen and I'd be out working on the bike and smoking cigarettes, and I wish I would have spent more time with her. So I'm not sure how in his older age, and he's not super old, how these letters finally start to open up his heart and he starts to change his attitude. I'm not sure. I mean, he builds that relationship with Sheikh, played by Nawaz.
Well, I was just saying, you can see that develop too, because at first it's like, come back later. Come back later. Come. All right, fine. Do this for me. And then they start having lunch together. And Nawaz does, like, not give up. Yeah. He's just constantly
Nawaz
there,
is very pushy about it.
Yes, he is.
And he was just so happy. And there was a few times where he'd get offended, and he talked about how he was an orphan that one time. Yeah. And then he talked about something else when he got mad. And when he got a little angry with it, I started to see the Nawaz I know and love, and I was joking around with Jody. I was like, oh, he's going to slice his throat right now because you don't mess with this guy. But obviously he's not that kind of character. He's a very humble character who came from literally nothing and is able to get this nice job. He's getting married. He gets a scooter for the wedding from the father-in-law, who says very sour face. But it's his Irrfan Khan's character goes through that progression, goes through that change, and for myself, I understand the argument can be made that Sheikh helped with that and the letters from Ela helped with that, but for myself, I didn't really completely buy that being enough motivation for him to be willing to change to the degree that he did. He didn't go completely crazy, and he's all super happy and jovial, but he cared about people. I don't see him in the past, even his whole reputation at work for 35 years is he's not going to care about you. Him actually caring about what Sheikh feels, and sure, you can join lunch with me and eat some of my food. For me, that was a little convenient, and that's a small problem I have with it. Things I love about the acting is fantastic, right? By Nimrat and by Irrfan, and even Nawaz, but Nawaz's character is kind of here or there. The acting was phenomenal. The writing was fantastic. Again, the notes, there were some notes that I just thought, wow, that was brilliantly written. I wish I could write a note like that. And then the writing in this story, the direction, even though it's open-ended, the direction gave you enough information to understand what was going on, and it was done in a very effective way. Only an hour and 45 minutes. I complained about Game Over being that short and not getting the whole story. I feel like we got the most of the story besides the end in that hour, 45 minutes. It was a nice, easy watch, but there was a lot of brain power I had to use in some of the things to try to figure, okay, how did this get resolved? How did that get resolved?
I inferred a lot better than you did.
Well, I never said I was a smart guy.
No, but I really appreciate how Mr. Fernandez said he did show up to the restaurant. Because there when Ela's
and she called it, too.
I said he's going to be there. He's just not coming up to her.
Yeah.
Yep. And I liked his explanation. Now, I don't think he's as old as he explains that he is, but I see that he's older in life, you know.
He's feeling that way.
He's feeling that way, and I appreciate how he's like, you've got dreams, you can do all this, but I liked how she came to find him. Now, personally for me, I probably would not have brought my daughter. Probably would have gone on a day that maybe she had school or something, because as having children, we know they talk, like they share. So my thing would be, why is she not asking questions like, why are we here? Would she not tell her dad, like, we went to this place? Or maybe it's a culture thing where they're just very quiet. Because I know, like, different cultures are very quiet. But at least here in the United States, our kids would be telling everything. I mean, we know when parents are pregnant before they want anybody knowing, because kids get excited and they just talk. Yeah. So
I mean, maybe it was
going and looking for this guy that you corresponded with.
Maybe it was a holiday. Maybe it was a Saturday. I mean, they were working that day. I mean, I know the work week's different in India than here in America. But it was interesting that she brought her daughter. Let us know what that was about. Was that just a day that her daughter didn't have school and she needed to meet this guy and she wasn't going to wait any longer?
Well, and had she might have missed him.
Yeah.
Because,
sure.
She did actually miss him.
And I've seen movies like that before where, like, they just miss each other and, you know, eventually they're going to come, like, serendipity and whatnot. They're going to come back together. Some of the things I really liked about this movie was, you know, it made me very hungry. I love food, and all the food that was shown in there looked very, very delicious. We were enamored by the stacking system. I've seen that in other movies as far as lunchboxes go, or the arrangement of the food. But we thought that was very interesting. We don't have our lunchboxes like that here in the States. At least, you know, Americans here in the States don't. Which
brings me to one quick question. So, what time do you guys have lunch? Or what time is lunch in this movie? Because he kept saying come after lunch at 4:45. That's pretty late. So at least for us, our traditional work day is like a 9 to 5 job, 9 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. at night. As teachers, we work a little bit differently, but we still have lunch like around 11, 12 in the afternoon, like right in the middle of the afternoon. And traditionally, we usually bring our own lunch. You either go out for lunch, depending on how long your lunch period is, or you bring a lunch and there's we have refrigerators in like our lunch areas where we eat, our lounges, teacher's lounge, or if you're at a different place, you always have like a little area. So anyway, we put our lunches in the fridge and you take it out and there'll be microwaves if you need to heat it up. But we were talking about, since they make the food fresh, and Nick's like, well, it's because they're making it fresh and they're sending it, but we make our food in the morning fresh. So I'm just curious, do you guys eat later? Is that why you have like a food service that brings lunch? Or
I guess the main question we had too as well is, why would the wife use the lunchbox service to give her husband food? Why not just give him the food before he left?
Yes.
Is it, like she said, is it all about that freshness and trying to get it within that hour or whatever it is after it's made? Because it just seems like a lot of work. I understand Mr. Fernandez's way of using it, where he's
Yes.
paying for that service and they're bringing him food.
Food,
And that was
okay.
pretty funny, where he had mentioned that he liked the food because he was confused, and the guy said, "Hey, they really like the cauliflower. Let's do it again." And so the husband kept getting it, and it, I'm a little slow. It took me a little while to realize that they kept thinking that was going to Fernandez, so let's just give him the cauliflower every day.
Yeah, so he's
and
like,
so the
"Can you
guy's like,
stop?"
makes me gassy. I mean, her husband was a punk, was he not?
He was
and that was
rude.
his character, so the actor did a fine job portraying that.
Yeah.
But he was so cold. He was so dismissive. He was just so over it. It was obvious that he was having an affair. The version we saw, I'm not sure there's different versions. The version we saw did not show him at all with a girlfriend. It just says, her in one of her notes says that he's having an affair.
Well,
That's
because
all
she
we
smells
get.
it on the clothes.
Right.
She's doing the laundry and all of a sudden she
There's that
smells
open,
that.
that unresolved again. And that's fine. I don't
She
want to
got it.
see him with his lover. I don't need to see that to understand what's going on. I mean, we picked it up before she started smelling the clothes.
Yeah.
But he was a punk. And so it's easy, when I said in the trailer reaction I didn't want to root for an affair, it's easy to kind of root for that and have her move on, so to speak, because he is so dismissive. And she kept trying. She put on her honeymoon dress, and that was so heartbreaking.
That was so sad.
Honeymoon dress. She looked beautiful. She wanted to spend some time with her husband. She wanted to have another child because Mr. Fernandez mentioned, that can save a marriage sometimes. And she's sitting there and she's like, "Honey," giving all the signs possible, and he's just like, "Excuse me."
He's like, "No more cauliflower." Gives me gas.
Gives me
And he
gas.
Walks away.
Wow, nice pillow talk, my friend.
Right.
But he was a punk. Didn't really like him that much, but that's the point. But this movie's very sweet. It's very natural in the way that their pen pal friendship develops.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest problem with this movie, besides it's making me use my brain a lot, I know in the comment section they're gonna call me dumb. I don't care.
I likes it.
I want a little bit more information. That's all I ask. But my biggest problem with this movie is how it was somber through most of it, and there was a few highs or whatever, but it was very somber, very melancholy. You get to know more about these characters, which was great. He goes to his, Shake's house, and you get to learn all that kind of stuff. But my biggest problem is the ending. And when I watched 3 Billboards from Ebbing, Missouri or something like that, whatever that movie's called, long title, it's a great movie, Oscar nominated, but there's no ending. That you know what they're going to do, and then it just cuts to black. And I personally do not like that style. I understand it's a style. I understand it's not breaking any rules or anything. But like my wife was saying, like Jody was saying, why not at least show him at her doorstep while you see her up in the window still there, and then cut to black? If you want to leave it up to our interpretation and our opinion of what's going to happen, that's fine. But I'm not a huge fan of that plot device.
Yeah.
That filming device.
At first I was like annoyed, like right when the movie ended. I was like, no, like I want to see him find her. Because it's evident, like when he was talking to all the people who work at the lunch service, that he's trying to find her address, and then you see him in the car with them, so you understand, or the train, you understand that he's making his way to her house. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that she didn't leave, like that he was still, but like you had said, he knows where she's going. He can try to still find her. But then as time went on, because we finished it this morning, and then as we were getting ready for the day and stuff, I kind of liked it more and more. So one of my favorite movies is Like Crazy, and it's kind of this back and forth relationship too, and it's very realistic. Like you can see this happening in a relationship, all the trials that they go through and why it works and why it doesn't. It's like, yes. And at the ending, they're finally back together, but it's almost like we can't live without each other, but can we live with each other? And it kind of just cuts it too. Like they're both reminiscing of their lives past, and it kind of just cuts, and it leaves you to interpret what's going to happen. Are they going to make it work? Are they going to be able to move past everything that's happened? And you don't really know. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because that is real life. And so I kind of am liking it more and more because it's real.
It's a good movie. I'm not saying it's not, but this is my main problem with it. So he knows what she looks like. He was able to see her.
She doesn't know
She's
him.
younger. Okay, she's beautiful. And he's not a bad-looking guy, but he's a little older. She, her dad just died. She's a little frazzled. Her marriage is falling apart. She's got this young child. And she seems like a woman that's got it together. She really does. And so she has not yet seen him. And I don't care how much, communication you have without meeting someone. We have this through the internet nowadays, or pen pal programs or whatever. You can feel a certain way about someone when you're not face-to-face with them. And I feel like it's easier, this is just my opinion, to build feelings for someone when you're not around them at all times, because you're not dealing with the negativity. It's all good stuff. It's just communication. But it's a different element when you meet that person, because at least for me, when it came to, meeting my wife or women before her, when it was, on a date or something, I knew pretty quickly whether there was an initial attraction there.
Yeah.
Now, there were some times where I was not initially attracted to someone I was dating, and then over time, their personality won me over. So that does hold importance to it. But those were relationships that I knew for myself weren't going to go anywhere. They were just, flings, or just, we're just hanging out for a few weeks. For someone that you want, and this woman seems like someone that doesn't want a fling, she wants something that's going to last. I wanted to see how she felt about him. As simple as she sees him, he sees her, and she at least smiles, and then they could fade to black. Or they meet, they sit down, maybe have an awkward cup of coffee because they're meeting for the first time, and then they go their separate ways, and she's packing things up, and he's packing things up, and then they both look like they have an idea, and then they smile. Something like that, just because I want to know, how does she feel about him? Because right now we're left with, he likes her, obviously. She likes him through the pen pal, but she's never met him before. I don't know if she's the kind of person where I'm in love with him no matter how he looks. I just want to know her reaction. So that was my biggest problem, but it did not ruin the movie for me. I just personally am not a fan of movies that end without some kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that we have to interpret, like an Inception, where we can argue about whether that thing was going to fall over or not.
And we totally do argue about that.
As far as we know, he got out of the dream, and then we can argue about that. As far as we know, he does go out to his kids, and they get up, and we see their faces for the first time. And so, and we do argue about that.
I was just saying, but are they real? Because they didn't age. It could still be
But at least that's
dream.
some kind of ending, right?
Yes, it's something that you could argue. I guess my biggest argument would be, is he going to be able to find her? You know what I mean? Like, if he doesn't make it to her house in time, and she does leave, she keeps saying how she's going to, I'm going to mispronounce it. What is it?
Bhutan?
Bhutan? Yeah, something like that. I don't know if that's a big place, if it's a small place. Like, if it's a big city, like, you come where we live, and I can't see you finding somebody if you're looking for them.
Right. I mean, I think her name is Ela, unless she told me the truth, and she just moved here.
That's what I kept trying to think this entire time. What was the one point that, I cringed at? The one part I cringed at in the movie, and not that it was bad, but that I was like, oh dear, is when he said, I have a girlfriend. And they're like, oh, what's her name? And he's like, Ela. And I was just like, please don't know her. Please don't know her.
I thought the wife, Shake's wife, was going to know her.
Yes. I was like, oh my goodness.
But again, I actually really liked that part.
Because it showed how much he liked her.
Right. Yeah. And it showed how much he was willing to go outside of himself because he liked her so much. And for me, in that moment, I might be really reading into this because this movie made me do it. For me, that was a moment where he was coming outside the box. He was coming out of his element, and he was admitting that he did care about her so much that he was excited to tell her to someone who is a new friend, and he meets the wife for the first time. I wanted more on Shake because, like you said, he seemed like a very complex character. Was he shysty? I mean, he seemed like a good person.
Yes.
But did he fake about his degree? And how did he get this job if he didn't know how to handle the numbers and all that kind of stuff?
Well,
I just wanted a little more information on a few of those things, like that ending.
I think the boss had said something at the very beginning that, he had, really good, reviews, from his previous job.
I have to go back and watch that part.
I was going to say, I could be wrong, but I want to say something like that, he was excited. But, yeah, and the fact that Shake didn't say, I know he kept saying, train me, train me, train me. But, when the guy said, well, go take care of this, if he really didn't know what he was doing, for me, I would come back and I'd be like, okay, no, I'm sorry. I need help. Please explain this to me. And so when he was called in when Mr. Fernandez was called into his boss's office and you see Shake just like this, oh, my heart just dropped.
The jig is up.
Just something happened. And I wasn't sure if Shake had reported him for not training him or what. And I thought it was very interesting too. And that was for me a change in his character when he covered for him. And he kept telling his boss, please, I'm not going to defend anybody.
For somebody.
Exactly. But he did. And he was frustrated with Shake, but he just asked, did you fake your degree?
Yeah, did your mother forge your degree? Which, of course, he's an orphan. Yeah. He mentioned his mother in a different way before. But, I mean, overall, I did enjoy this movie. I just wanted a little bit more because I feel like, as an audience, I guess a stylistic choice. But the way it ended, that was a gut punch. You gotta be kidding me. But it does not ruin the entire movie. Just like Three Billboards was not ruined for me. That's still a great movie. And so, as far as a grade goes on this movie, because I think we've touched most of the points, As far as a grade goes for this, I am going to give this a B+, and that's my honest grade because for me, an ending means a lot. I don't even care if it's a horrible, sad ending. I want some kind of wrap-up because we do not know how she feels about him. And I'm sure I missed something that shows that she's not going to care at all. She's going to be with him. Maybe that doesn't matter. But for me, it does matter because with the fact that the Lunchbox program made a mistake, which it never does.
And that guy right away was like, nope, it wasn't us.
And he
Sorry.
was defendant.
Nope.
Harvard came
Nope.
out. These people came out. We are doing great. Since they never make a mistake, and they did make a mistake with this guy, that's, to me, fate. That was serendipitous. That was something that was supposed to happen.
That was their getting on the wrong chain to the right place,
Right.
and they kept saying.
Exactly. And so, for me, it seems like fate wants these two people to be together in this movie's world. And so, for me, we can take that and say, okay, they are going to end up together. But I just want to see them meet each other for the first time. I felt like going through that whole thing where let's see what happens when they meet each other, and it doesn't happen. I felt a little cheated right there. So that's why I give it a B+. Great acting, great direction, and all that kind of stuff was great. Just wanted a little bit more.
I'm going to give it an A- because I have to admit, when we ended, I felt the same way. I was very, very frustrated. I think I've come to terms with it a little bit better, but yes, I'm hoping for like a Lunchbox too. Like maybe the movie's all about
Dinner
him
box.
trying to find her. Trying to find her, and then finally at the end they do. My one question though is she leaves, like, is she still staying married to her husband? Do they get a divorce? Like,
Well, she said she's packing up and she's leaving
She's
before
gone.
he comes home, it sounds like. So, I mean, she's out of there.
I agree, but you're still legally married.
Well, yeah.
So I'm just, like, I just maybe have a second one, like have the entire time Mr. Finesse trying to find her, and then they find each other, and
I guess the argument could be made that since her husband did not care enough about the marriage to have an affair, that in her mind, marriage is dead, and so you don't care, I don't care. But
no, I think she definitely thinks that. I'm just saying, like, legally wise, like, what's the husband going to do? Because if he wants to be with another woman, it's not like you can just go get a second marriage. You got to divorce first.
Again,
and then
it
get married.
seems like he probably would have no problem with giving her a divorce, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's already moved on, and now this gives him an opportunity. Like, oh, great, she's gone. I'll move my girlfriend in.
Well, so now I'm thinking of, like, American wise, now we've got a pride thing. Now we've got, you have our child, and you took our child away from me. And I'm thinking too far. I know.
But that's our review for the Lunchbox.
It was a sweet romance. How about that? It was very, very adorable.
We hope you enjoyed our review. Thank you so much for requesting us to do the trailer reaction, which inspired us to check out the movie. We did watch it, most of it, on Valentine's Day, so that was kind of cool for us. Thank you so much for that. As always, if you're new to Boring Reviews, go ahead and first like this video if you liked it. And
there we go.
Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like this video. And then check out some other content we have. We have tons of videos we're releasing every single day. And don't forget to check out our Patreon. We've gotten a lot of love from that recently. Thank you for all our Patrons out there. But until next time.
Goodbye.